In an ever-changing world with so much focus on the future, be it advancements in technology, medicine, or communication, we often forget the root of our being, our cultural heritage. With one that's so vibrant, we want to make a concerted effort to ensure that it's not lost to evolution. On today's Jamaica Magazine, we'll show you glimpses of the island's cultural expressions. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Welcome.
Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, October 11, 2022. The Sugar Company of Jamaica, SCJ Holdings, will be working with persons informally occupying property in the Bernard Lodge area of St. Catherine to amicably resolve their land disputes. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave the assurance after meeting with the residents of Clifton and Bernard Lodge Farm on Friday. The area was the site of demolition work started to remove some of the buildings located on the property, which is owned by SCJ Holdings.
Some of the houses that are already there, what we have said, when we gave the direction to move with demolition, is that if structures are incomplete, demolish those. And you know why? Those structures are actually on agricultural land. If you look at it, and you have to be truthful, they are on the farmland.
We see that.
Right? Second thing we said, if a house is incomplete, but it has on a decking or a roof, we're going to leave it. The person who is doing it must come to us and they must tell us how they came by the land and give us all the information, and then we will sit with them, as you say, work out a situation with them, and we will see how we can facilitate them. For the houses that are already built, which are already built in the area that we are designated as the kind of spillover, those persons must come to the SCJ and we start a negotiation.
Mr. Holness says it is not the government's intention for citizens to be without a home, but he asserts that the law must be enforced. SCJ Holdings reported posting stop orders twice, warning the residents of the approximately 30 illegally constructed units. £5 million has been secured from the United Kingdom UK Blue Carbon Fund to invest in 3,800 hectares of mangroves in southern Clarendon and reforest the depleted areas. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator Matthew Samuda, says the government is also partnering with the University of the West Indies and other entities to protect the mangroves and boost income-generating opportunities for residents. The region has the largest area of mangrove degradation in the island. This is due to, among other things, unsustainable land use activities such as the cutting down of trees to burn coal. Minister Samuda says the restoration will be critical for protecting against storms, especially in low-lying areas. He says the government has secured a land lease to ensure the protection of the mangroves for the long stretch. The Forestry Department is also acquiring a buffer parcel of land as further protection for the stretch of mangroves that are to be restored. And the Ministries of Economic Growth and Agriculture are joining forces to build an agroforest wall inside the mangrove forest, which will create economic opportunities for the people of South Clarendon. Minister Samuda gave the update on Friday as he addressed the National Tree Planting Day ceremony held at the Ebony Park Agro Park. The observance is an annual initiative of the Forestry Department which seeks to promote the value of trees and contribute to increasing the island's tree cover. Children with special needs are to benefit from accessible digital textbooks, ADT, to boost their learning capacity. The materials will be made available to students who are visually or hearing impaired and those with intellectual, developmental, or learning disabilities. Various stakeholders in the education sector, along with representatives of the Ministry of Education, were brought together to develop the guidelines for producing the textbooks in the accessible digital format. They have been developed in keeping with the universal design for learning principles. The provision of ADT locally is part of a global initiative by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, in collaboration with its partners. Minister of Education and Youth, Favour Williams, is encouraging teachers and school administrators to get on board with the accessible digital textbooks. She was addressing the recent launch of the ADT Jamaica prototype at the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Library. 2 new coaster buses have been handed over to Lacovia High in St. Elizabeth to improve the school's transportation system. They were procured under the Ministry of Education's expanded pilot school bus program with funding from the Grant Assistance for Grassroots Human Security Project of the Government of Japan. A grant of approximately $135,000 was provided to purchase the buses from Toyota Jamaica. Minister of Education and Youth, Favour Williams, says investments such as this will benefit not just the school, but Jamaica as a whole.
The reality is that Jamaica's public transportation system does not have adequate number of buses to replicate a subsidized school bus service as we have in the Kingston metropolitan region of Kingston and St. Andrew and some parts of St. Catherine through the JUTC and a few other parishes. This is a most welcome addition to the efforts of the ministry to expand the rural school bus service.
She thanked the government and people of Japan for the buses and assured them that the staff and students at Lacovia High School would take the best care of the vehicles. Minister of Transport and Mining, Audley Shaw, is renewing the call for Jamaicans to exercise greater care on the road as the country records 350 road fatalities since the start of the year.
I urge all operators to obey the road code and drive for life. We must become fully aware of the traffic environment and take the requisite steps to protect passengers, selves, and others, because preservation of life is profoundly important as we seek to stem the tide of traffic crashes that continues to negatively permeate the socio-economic fabric of our society.
The minister was addressing a recent ceremony for the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, to facilitate the training of operators in the public transport sector. 1,000 personnel will be trained as Jamaica Union of Travelers Association JUTA counterparts, as well as first responders and road safety ambassadors under the Team Jamaica program. It's being undertaken by the Tourism Product Development Company, TPDCO, Transport Operators Development Sustainable Services, British Caribbean Insurance Company, BCIC, Team Jamaica, and the Transport Authority. Minister Shaw commended the groups for coming together to enhance service delivery in the transportation sector. And finally, Jamaica's aviation development is expected to be bolstered by the island's recent election to the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO Council, for the 2022-2025 triennium. The ICAO Council is the 36-member governing body responsible for providing guidance to support aviation diplomacy and standards for 193 countries. Minister of Transport and Mining Audley Shaw led the Jamaican delegation to ICAO's 41st Assembly held recently in Montreal, Canada. He says Jamaica's election positions the country to support the acceleration of the aviation industry. Director General of the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, Nari William Singh, who was a member of the delegation, says Jamaica's election is a good representation geographically for small island developing states to be included in developing aviation policy. Jamaica has been an ICAO member state since 1963 and represented the English-speaking Caribbean on the Council from 1977 to 1986. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Crime and violence is infecting our youth. We must work together to rescue them from the gangs, engage them in productive activities, and safeguard Jamaica's future.
Up next, the news stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister this past week.
Prime Minister gives update on Greater Bernard Lodge development, meets with residents in Clifton St. Catherine, and issues directives on psychoactive drugs. You're watching Jamaica House Weekly. I'm Vanessa Silvera. At the top of last week, Prime Minister Andrew Holness updated the House of Representatives on government's Greater Bernard Lodge development plan. He said SCJ Holdings had earned $3.8 billion from the sale of 1,225 acres of land to 7 developers. The funds, the Prime Minister said, would be used to offset over $2 billion in legacy obligations held by the SCJ.
The net proceeds of the Bernard Lodge land sales will be applied in clearing these obligations, and the divestment of the properties will lower SCJ's operating cost and place the organization in a stronger financial position.
Prime Minister Holness also disclosed that Cabinet approved the transfer of 102 acres of land for housing developments by the National Housing Trust and the Housing Agency of Jamaica. Mr. Holness says the divestment of Bernard Lodge lands is progressing smoothly, with 2 of the 3 phases completed successfully and the third now in development. Still in Parliament Wednesday, the Prime Minister said 142 farmers who were relocated from parts of Bernard Lodge have successfully settled on other lands in the development. Mr. Holness said the farmers have received more than $650 million from SCJ Holdings.
Already, many of the farmers are in full production, with vendors and other persons visiting the farms on a regular basis to purchase produce for retail and domestic use. So, Madam Speaker, we now have a well-structured agro-park that has the potential to become a model for agricultural development in the Caribbean.
The SCJ is offsetting the cost of providing irrigation water to farmers in what will be the most comprehensive urban development being undertaken by the government of Jamaica. On Friday, the Prime Minister attended the National Housing Trust's 2022 Board of Directors retreat. He told the gathering that the government would be absorbing the land impact fee for the construction of 15,000 new housing solutions within the Greater Bernard Lodge development area. The impact fee is normally a one-time payment imposed by a local government on a property developer.
So the price of the house should come down. So the residents or the persons who were affected in the adjoining area to Clifton who said, where are we going to go? Well, we're looking at options where we can make the cost of the housing lower by virtue of government making a budgetary allocation to absorb these preliminary development costs.
Under the Greater Bernard Lodge development, housing and agriculture will be equally prioritized, with 15,000 housing solutions being constructed and some 1,300 acres of land reserved for small and medium-sized farmers. Friday also saw the Prime Minister meeting with residents of Clifton and Bernard Lodge in St. Catherine. Work had begun earlier in the week to remove illegally built structures from arable lands in the Bernard Lodge development area. During a tour, Prime Minister Holness assured residents that the SCJ would be working to amicably resolve land disputes.
Some of the houses that are already there, what we have said, when we gave the direction to move with demolition, is that if structures are incomplete, demolish those. And you know why? Those structures are actually on agricultural land. If you look at it, and you have to be truthful, they are on the farmland.
We see that.
Right? Second thing we said, if a house is incomplete, but it has on a decking or a roof, we're going to leave it. The person who is doing it must come to us and they must tell us how they came by the land and give us all the information, and then we will sit with them, as you say, work out a situation with them, and we will see how we can facilitate them.
Earlier in the week, the Prime Minister gave instructions for the updating of laws governing the use of psychoactive substances. Mr. Holness gave the directive following a presentation of the National Council on Drug Abuse (NCDA) during a monthly meeting of the National Security Council. According to the Prime Minister, the updated laws will capture the threat psychotropic drugs pose, particularly to the youth. A recent situational assessment undertaken in May 2022 by the NCDA pointed to the growing use of Molly and other dangerous drugs among adolescents. The Prime Minister says the update will serve to hold producers and traffickers of the substances accountable. And Prime Minister Holness dispatched Minister Floyd Green to Central Kingston, where he handed over 2 dwellings under the new social housing program NSHP. Minister Green said almost 100 houses have been completed under the program and another 50 are in various stages of construction.
What you are seeing today are 2 new units that have been constructed from reinforced concrete, comprised of 2 bedrooms, living room, dining room, bathroom, kitchen.
I big up God, because God make this possible for me. Yeah, because the way the house stay, I couldn't in it. I couldn't stay in it. Rain it come wet me. I don't know how to manage.
The homes were delivered in collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. And that's it for Jamaica House Weekly. Be sure to join us next time for more of the news stories coming out of the Office of the Prime Minister. I'm Vanessa Silvera.
Agriculture, the gift that feeds us. This trusted occupation has gone through much diversification with technology and innovation. And with this explosion comes even greater interest in the sector. For those wishing to dive into the lucrative endeavor, here are some things to consider.
I have been involved in agriculture for many years now, as far as I can remember, because my parents are both farmers, and growing up in a farmer's household, it was automatic that I developed the skill and also the interest. The strategy that my parents would employ is that though their farm is the main farm, but what they would do, they would give you, let's say, 24 tomato seedlings, and you'll plant those for yourself. So you'll start practicing how to care them, and then you'll harvest them, and then you'll get all of that money. So I started to see the benefit from very early. What my parents did again, they gave each of us a female goat. So we started the reproduction from early, and that money would go towards our savings.
Imagine what life would be like for your children, rearing their own animals, growing their own produce, making their own money. Just think about it. If you're still not convinced, meet our 5-year-old friend O'Neill Grant, affectionately called Chris, from St. Elizabeth.
Me go take the goat, me feed the fowl, me feed the rabbit. Look at mommy, mama. Come, mama.
Yes, you have rabbit and you feed them a man time. Like sometimes when you go in there, you clean out the coop and you catch water and you give rabbit. Otherwise, you feed them for them. See, you have chicken neck up, you feed them same way. Before Chris 3-year-old, Chris always go and come. Go and come. So after that, follow me go bush a man time, watch how me tie goat them. Sometimes he say, Mama, I want the rope to tie. So sometimes he give me rope to tie, he go and get way. Sometimes he go down there and get way. So I say, all right, Chris, come show you if you tie goat. And he say, all right, Mama. So when Chris start tie goat them, then don't get way again. So it get used to know, till he never remember say, if you go for your mother, I just me want to steer it. If me plan go and help me, anything me I do, he help me. Till after that now, we thought me a raise for chicken them same way, he get up a man time, and me open the coop, he help me feed them, he start give them wash out the pan, give them water same way. When he pluck, he catch them, and give me them, we kill them. So everything me I do, Chris give helping on the night same way.
And Chris manages to do all this while still making time for his online classes.
I give Chris a goat. Chris say, Mama, he said the goat turn big, I want to sell him and buy a cow calf.
My goatee, my goatee.
He behave all right enough, so sometimes like you get in trouble now, we dry him and hug him up and put in his head and I work like I do so rub him down so I keep myself calm. Like when the sun hot at the time now, he say, Mama, give me one pan. And Chris take it on, catch water pipe, and go give every one of them water. And come back. And I even know when we reach also 3, 4 o'clock, Chris said, Mama, come ready, we are going to figure out them carry in. Yes, he get used to it, So sometimes when we up here, in the bush long time, go give out them water. And sometimes when we look out at the door, he carry in already long time.
So you say Chris going to be a farmer?
Yes, he want to be a farmer.
I want to be a farmer, yes.
So if you don't have a farm or yard like Chris to rear animals or to do farming on a large scale, then utilize your backyard and your containers. Remember, reduce, reuse, and recycle. You can sow seedlings or plant a small vegetable garden and sell your excess to your neighbors. Here's a secret. If you plant okra, once those okra trees start bearing, you can reap every 3 days. So imagine selling at least 5 bags of okra at $100 per bag every 3 days for, let's say, a month. Imagine all that money that you can make. Do the math.
Mr. President, we cannot properly make use of this watershed moment to benefit the future without adequately addressing the past. Jamaica reaffirms its determination to further the call for international recognition of reparatory justice as a necessary path to healing, restoration of dignity, and progress for people of African descent. The world cannot turn a blind eye to the systemic imbalances which persist after centuries of exploitation. If our moral standards today, on which we claim a higher civilization, acknowledges that actions in the past, which generated wealth for some by depriving others of their freedom, were wrong, then that same moral standard must lead those who benefited from the wrongs of the past and claim a higher civilization today to repair that which their morality now acknowledges to be an injustice. There is an inescapable duty for economic redress, for historical injustices, and recognition of the dignity of affected states and people. The arc of international morality would not have completed its bend for the peoples of the African diaspora without open and inclusive exchanges on the dispensation of reparatory justice. We recognize the complexities associated with this sensitive issue. Yet, as with all complex global challenges, we must summon the determination to take the bold and creative steps to meet the moment.
Our heritage is our music, dance, language, and traditions. It is also our land, the mountains, the valleys, the inclines and plains. Hear more about two such living heritage.
Syncona was first established in 1868 by the then Governor Sir John Peter Grant. At that time, the gardens was used as an experimental location. Various plants from other European countries were brought here for medicinal purposes, like the eucalyptus, the camphor, and other herbs are grown up here.
Syncona is unique as it is the only garden in the Caribbean at such a high elevation.
Syncona got its name at the time when there was a malaria infestation on the island, and that Syncona plant was brought to Jamaica by a governor of Peru. The cinchona plant was used to cure the malaria by way of extracting the bark of the plant and transforming that into quinine. And they used that to work on the malaria.
There are no conservation programs at Cinchona, but if you're feeling adventurous, make the hike and study an array of exotic plants on location, including the almost 200-year-old hoop pine. Our journey ends at the largest green space in the Kingston metropolitan area. Though run by the non-governmental organization Nature Preservation Foundation, it still receives a subsidy from the government and is free to the public.
Hope Gardens comprises of 260 acres stretching from Old Hope Road to Skyline Drive, but the actual gardens is mainly 60 active acres. The garden was a gift to Major Richard Hope, who was part of the contingency of Pennant Venables who came to conquer the island in about 1655 when the English invaded and took over from the Spanish.
Hope was an experimental site. They introduced exotic plants here and replanted them on the island once successfully propagated. Offspring of these plants remain in the garden.
We have the cannonball tree, which is native to the Amazon rainforest, that bears a fruit that takes 18 months to ripe, and it also weighs about 15 pounds. We also have the sausage tree, and that fruit can weigh anywhere between 15 to 27 pounds, and it really does look like a huge German sausage. The tree is native to West Africa, in Senegal.
Hope is vital in the conservation of the island's wildlife and flora.
We have a particular project in which we go to the cockpit country and get endemic plants, take them back to Hope Gardens, grow them and reintroduce them into the wild. The zoo also has a world-famous iguana project in which they have rediscovered the local Jamaican iguana, bred them successfully in captivity, and have introduced over 400 native iguanas into the hills of Hellshire.
This garden is usually bustling with activities. Family gatherings, professional photography, and school excursions are among the popular happenings.
The Chinese Garden is also a special place within the Hope Gardens. It was a gift, a $3 million US gift from the People's Republic of China to the people and government of Jamaica.
I like about Hope Gardens is that you are free. You can do anything you want. You can paint, you can play, you can go to the zoo, like see the animals.
My group came here because we have a history group project. We thought that coming to the Hope Gardens would be a good idea, especially on a Sunday, because on a Sunday it's quiet and I think it's very conducive to practice. There is greenery and it's an open space. So, you know, you get a nice fresh breath of air while you're here, and it's, I think it helps you to focus more on what you need to do.
Hope Gardens is a getaway for persons wanting a break from the hustle and bustle of city life. A visit to public gardens provides this opportunity. Nature beckons. What are you waiting for?
As Steve Berry said, a concerted effort to preserve our heritage is a vital link to our cultural, educational, and economic legacies. All of the things that quite literally make us who we are. We here at the JIS urge you to play your part to protect our inheritance. It is on that note that we close today's Jamaica Magazine program. We return about the same time tomorrow right here on this station. We are also available online, jis.gov.jm, or via email at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. Until then, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care, and thank you so much for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.